Hello, everyone. Welcome to Astral Card Vault. This is your energy update. Let's see what's coming in. If you're new here, welcome. I'm really glad you found this reading. And if this message connects with your situation, you can like, subscribe, or leave a little sign in the comments. It helps the reading find the people who need it. Now, the first card we have here is the Three of Pentacles. And right away, this is very interesting energy because the Three of Pentacles is not just about love in a dreamy, emotional way. This is about looking at how something was built, how something developed step by step, how two people interacted, learned each other, misunderstood each other, maybe even influenced each other without fully realizing it at the time. This person is looking back at the structure of this connection. They're looking at the small moments, the conversations, the effort, the way you showed up, the way they showed up, and for some of you, there may have been other people around this connection as well. Friends, coworkers, a social circle, family opinions, or just outside circumstances that shaped how this love story unfolded. But what's interesting here is they're now seeing the bigger picture. At the time, they may have only seen one piece of the story. Maybe they were focused on their own responsibilities, their own image, their work, their stability, or what they thought they needed to prove. But now, with the Three of Pentacles, they're realizing this connection had potential. It wasn't random, it wasn't meaningless. It was something that could have been built into something real. And I feel this person is asking themselves, did I do my part? That's the emotional hook of this card. They're looking back and wondering if they gave enough, if they listened enough, if they respected what was growing between you. Because there's something here about teamwork, but also imbalance. One person may have been more emotionally present, one person may have been more patient, one person may have understood the value of the connection sooner, and they didn't see this before, but they're seeing it now. The Three of Pentacles tells me this person is reviewing the foundation. They're thinking about what went unsaid, what could have been handled differently, and what it would take to approach you correctly. And I do feel there's something they want to say, but they've been holding back. Because if they come forward now, they know they can't just appear casually. They have to come with intention. They have to show maturity. They have to show that they understand what this connection actually meant. So yes, this person is looking back at how this love story unfolded, and they're realizing it may still be possible to build something from here and moving from that foundation. The next card coming through is the Four of Cups. And this makes a lot of sense with what we were just seeing, because the Three of Pentacles is the foundation. But the Four of Cups is the pause afterward. It's that moment where something was available, something was close, something was emotionally present, but somebody was not fully receiving it. Tell me about the Four of Cups. Yeah, see, this is someone realizing they may have acted unavailable even when the connection was right there in front of them. They may have had the words, they may have had the chance, they may have had the feeling, but at the time, they didn't know what to do with it. Or they convinced themselves it wasn't the right moment. Or they told themselves, I'll deal with this later, not realizing that later can become distance if nobody reaches across the space. And I feel this person is looking back at that now. They're seeing where they sat with their emotions instead of expressing them. They're seeing where they became too quiet, too passive, too unsure. And with this Four of Cups, there's a strong sense of emotional hesitation. Not because the feeling wasn't there, but because they didn't know how to accept what was being offered. For some of you, you may have shown kindness to this person. You may have shown interest. You may have given them patience, warmth, understanding, and they didn't reject it exactly, but they also didn't fully meet you in it. That's the piece they're reviewing now. They're asking themselves, why didn't I respond differently? But what's interesting here is, the Four of Cups also shows someone who is not satisfied with where things are. So this person may have tried to ignore the emotional pull, but ignoring it didn't bring peace. It created this strange emptiness, this feeling of sitting with what could have been. And now they're realizing they do have a choice. They can keep looking at what didn't happen, or they can finally do something different. This is no longer passive remembering. This is awareness turning into responsibility. They're starting to understand that if they want the story to change, they can't just wait for the universe to drop the perfect moment into their lap. They have to participate, and I feel their confidence is slowly building here. But there is still a reason they delayed coming forward. Because this Four of Cups tells me they weren't only unsure about you, they were unsure about themselves. And with that uncertainty showing up, the next card coming through is the Queen of Swords. Now, this is where the energy starts to shift, because the Queen of Swords is very clear, very observant, very direct. This is not someone who can be approached with confusion, half-truths, or vague energy. So when this card comes out after the Four of Cups, it tells me this person knew, on some level, that if they came toward you, they would have to be honest. Tell me about the Queen of Swords. Yeah, see, this is someone realizing you are not as easy to fool as maybe they wanted to believe. And I don't mean that in a harsh way. I mean you could feel when something was off. You could sense when they were holding back. You may not have said everything you noticed, but you noticed more than they thought you did. And I feel that intimidated them a little. Because this person may have been used to staying in control emotionally. They may have been used to choosing what they revealed, when they revealed it, how much they showed, how much they hid. But with you, there was something different. You had a way of seeing through the surface. This person knows they may have looked more detached than they actually felt. They may have acted calm, quiet, busy, or practical, but underneath that, there was emotion they didn't know how to explain. And the Queen of Swords tells me they were also afraid of saying the wrong thing, afraid you would ask a question they weren't ready to answer, afraid you would make them face the truth they were still trying to organize inside themselves. But what's interesting here is they're not seeing your clarity as coldness anymore. They're seeing it as self-respect. They're looking back and realizing you may have had every reason to pull back, every reason to protect your peace, every reason to stop giving emotional access to someone who wasn't fully showing up. And they didn't see this before, but they're seeing it now. This Queen of Swords is also telling me they know the next move has to be clean, clear, mature, no games, no strange silence followed by a casual hey, like nothing happened. If they come forward, they have to come forward differently. And I feel that's why they delayed. Not because they didn't care, but because part of them knew you deserved the truth. And once they recognize that your clarity requires honesty, the next energy starts showing what their heart has actually been trying to do beneath all this control. And the next card coming through is the Eight of Wands. So, yeah, this is the movement. This is the part they tried to keep quiet, but it's starting to press forward now. Because the Eight of Wands is not a card of sitting still. It's not a card of overthinking forever. It's that energy of something building speed after a long delay. Tell me about this Eight of Wands. Yeah, see, this is communication. This is someone thinking about what they would say if they reached out, how they would start, how they would explain themselves without sounding like they're making excuses. And I feel this person may have gone over a message in their head more than once. For some of you, they've typed something and deleted it. For others, they've been waiting for a reason, a birthday, a post, a shared space, a mutual friend saying your name, something that gives them a door to open without feeling like they are completely exposing themselves. But the Eight of Wands tells me their emotions are no longer staying neatly tucked away. After the Queen of Swords, this is very clear, because they know they cannot come in with confusion. They know you are going to feel the truth behind whatever they say. So this movement has to be intentional. It has to have some honesty in it. And I feel they are looking back at how this love story unfolded and realizing there were moments where they should have spoken sooner. They should have clarified sooner. They should have shown more interest, more consistency, more emotional courage, and that does not mean they are sitting in guilt in a dramatic way. It feels more like recognition. Like, I understand now why things slowed down. I understand now why this person may have pulled back. But what's interesting here is, this Eight of Wands feels fast on the outside, but slow on the inside. Meaning, when this communication comes in, it may feel sudden to you. You may think, where is this coming from? But energetically, this has been moving through them for a while. They've been carrying it quietly. They've been circling the thought. They've been trying to find the right angle, and there is something softer underneath all of this. They don't just want to speak to be heard. They want to feel whether the door is still open. They want to know if there is still warmth there, still curiosity, still a chance to create a different outcome than the one they allowed before. So yes, their heart wants movement. Their heart wants to reach across the space. But even with this Eight of Wands, even with all this momentum building, there's still a fear here. A fear that when they finally send the message, or finally say what they've been holding, you may not receive it the way they hope, and that fear brings us right into the next card, which is the Ace of Swords, but it's coming through reversed. So that fear makes sense, because the Ace of Swords upright would be clarity, truth, a clean conversation, a direct message, something being spoken plainly but reversed. This is where the words get caught. This is where someone knows the truth internally, but struggles to bring it out in a way that feels safe. Tell me about this Ace of Swords reversed. Yeah, see, this is someone rehearsing honesty before they actually live it. They may know exactly what they feel, but not exactly how to say it. Or they may know what they should have said before, but now they're worried that too much time has passed. There's an energy here of, what if I explain it wrong? What if I open this conversation and it doesn't go the way I imagined? What if they hear my words, but they don't believe my intention? And I feel this is where the holding back really shows itself, not in the sense that they don't care, more in the sense that they are afraid of losing control once the truth is out. Because once they say something real, they can't pretend anymore. They can't hide behind silence. They can't act like this connection was just casual or simple or easy to forget. And with the Ace of Swords reversed, there may have been miscommunication here before, mixed signals, unfinished conversations, things implied but not fully said for some of you. This person may have left you guessing. And now they're looking back and realizing that silence also communicates something. Avoidance also creates an answer. Even if they didn't mean to make you feel uncertain, they can see how their lack of clarity may have affected the way this story unfolded. But what's interesting here is, the sword is still here, so the truth has not disappeared. It's just been delayed. It's been turned inward. It's been sitting inside them, becoming heavier the longer they avoid it. And I do feel there's something they want to say, but they've been holding back because they know the conversation cannot be shallow. It has to cut through confusion. It has to clear the fog. And it has to respect the fact that you may not be the same version of yourself who waited before. That's important. Because once they understand that the truth cannot come in halfway, the next energy starts showing how your growth, your distance, or your self-respect has changed the way this person sees the connection now. And the next card coming through is the Nine of Cups, and now your energy is coming through very strongly. Because the Nine of Cups is someone who has been learning how to sit in their own emotional space, someone who may still have feelings. Yes, but is not living from lack, not begging for answers, not chasing someone who cannot speak clearly, not trying to pull the truth out of a person who keeps hiding behind silence. Tell me about this Nine of Cups. Yeah, see, this is why they're looking at you differently now. They may have expected you to stay open in the same way. They may have expected you to keep wondering, keep reaching, keep giving little signs that the door was still unlocked. But with the Nine of Cups, it feels like you started choosing yourself more. And that changed something. For some of you, you became quieter, not cold, not cruel, just more contained. You may have stopped explaining your heart to someone who wasn't meeting you with the same honesty. You may have focused on your own peace, your own healing, your own appearance, your own work, your own routines, your own sense of stability. And this person noticed. They may not have said anything, but they noticed the shift. Because before, they may have been able to feel your emotional availability. They may have known you cared. They may have sensed that. Even if things were unclear, you still had some softness toward them. But now, with this Nine of Cups, they're wondering if that softness is still accessible, and they're realizing you were not something to take for granted. But what's interesting here is, this card can also show someone who looks content from the outside, even if there are still private feelings underneath. So this person may be looking at you and thinking, are they happy without me? Have they moved on? Did I wait too long? That's where the tension comes in. Because their lack of clarity, with that Ace of Swords reversed, may have pushed you into a place where you had to become emotionally self-sufficient. You had to stop waiting for them to decide what they wanted. You had to stop letting their confusion become the center of your emotional weather. And they didn't see this before, but they're seeing it now. They're seeing that you have value with or without their attention. And now this person is wondering whether they still have a place in your emotional world, or whether you've quietly learned how to be okay without them. And with that question sitting in the air, the next card coming through is the Knight of Coins. And this is very interesting after the Nine of Cups, because the Knight of Coins is not fast, but it is intentional. This is not someone rushing in just because they had a sudden feeling one night. This is someone who is slowly looking at the ground they already walked on and asking, what would it actually take to do this properly? Tell me about this Knight of Coins. Yeah, see, this is someone who has been moving much more slowly than their emotions. They may have had moments where they wanted to reach out sooner, but then they stopped themselves. They thought about the practical side, the timing, the risk, the way you might respond, the way they would have to explain their silence, their hesitation, their lack of clarity before, and with the Knight of Coins. I feel this person is not only remembering the connection emotionally, they're remembering the details, the things you said, the way you carried yourself, the patience you gave them, the moments where you may have shown consistency, even when they were uncertain. And for some of you, this could have been connected to work, routines, shared responsibilities, or some kind of environment where you saw each other often enough for feelings to build quietly. They didn't understand the importance of it then, but they're seeing it now. Because this Knight of Coins is someone who takes a long time to recognize what they truly value, sometimes too long. And I feel that's part of what they're looking back on. They may be thinking, this person was steady with me. This person was real with me. This person didn't just bring emotion, they brought presence, and that matters now. But what's interesting here is, this card also tells me they don't want to come forward empty-handed. They don't want to just bring words. They want to bring something that feels more stable than before, more respectful, more grounded, even if it starts small, even if it begins with a simple message. Underneath it, there is this desire to show that they are not approaching you the same way they may have approached this connection in the past. This is slow courage, quiet courage, the kind of courage that takes shape before it speaks. And I feel this person is looking back at the whole unfolding of this love story and realizing they can't keep standing outside of it, thinking about what they should have done. And as that slow courage starts to form, the next energy shows the inner conflict they've had to move through before they can stop running from the truth. And the next card coming through is the Two of Pentacles. And this is very interesting after the Knight of Coins, because now we're seeing the reason they moved so slowly. This person wasn't just standing still. They were trying to balance something. Tell me about this Two of Pentacles. Yeah. See, this is someone who has been going back and forth inside themselves. One moment, they feel like, I need to say something, I need to reach out, I need to stop letting this sit in silence. And then the next moment, they start thinking about everything else, the timing, their responsibilities, their pride, your reaction, the possibility that maybe you've already made peace with the distance. So there's this emotional juggling here. And I feel this person may have tried to keep their life looking steady on the outside, even while internally, this connection kept moving around in their mind. They may have been focused on work, money, obligations, family situations, or just trying to keep their own world under control. But underneath all of that, there was still this question of you, still this unfinished feeling, still this sense of, what do I do with this? But what's interesting here is, the Two of Pentacles is not denial, it's decision-making. It's someone realizing they cannot keep balancing two different versions of themselves forever. The version that acts like this connection is behind them, and the version that still looks back, that still remembers, that still wonders what would happen if they finally came forward with something real. They're seeing the truth now, but it has not been a simple truth for them to accept, because if they admit that this story is not finished, then they also have to admit that they played a part in leaving it unfinished, and that brings us right back to the Three of Pentacles. A connection cannot be built properly if one person is always half in and half out. It cannot become stable if someone keeps trying to hold their feelings in one hand and their fear in the other. And I feel this person knows that now. They're realizing that balance is not the same thing as avoidance. Waiting is not the same thing as wisdom. And being careful is not the same thing as being honest. For some of you, this person may have thought time would make the choice easier, but time only made the feeling more obvious. And now this energy feels like it's starting to tip. Because once they stop going back and forth, the next step is movement. And that movement does not feel careless. It feels like something inside them has finally been shaken enough to make the silence feel impossible to keep. And the next card coming through is the Tower, but it's reversed, and that's very interesting. Because this does not feel like a loud explosion on the outside. This feels like something that already happened inside this person. A private realization, a quiet shakeup. Something in them finally admitting, I cannot keep pretending this did not affect me. Tell me about the Tower reversed. Yeah, see, this is someone trying to avoid a complete collapse of the connection. They may have thought that by staying quiet. They were keeping things peaceful. They may have thought silence was safer than saying the wrong thing. But now they're realizing that silence can create its own kind of damage. It can make someone feel unwanted. It can make someone stop waiting. It can make a connection that still has feeling begin to look like it has no future. And I feel that is what has shaken them. Not necessarily one dramatic event, not necessarily a big argument for some of you. It may have simply been your energy changing. You becoming less available, less emotionally open, less easy to read. And suddenly, this person felt the ground move under them a little. Because, before, they may have assumed there would always be time. Always another chance. Always another opening. But the Tower reversed says they are now realizing that if they keep delaying, they may lose the chance to rebuild anything at all. But what's interesting here is, this card is reversed, so I don't feel they want chaos. I don't feel they want to come in and turn your life upside down. I feel they are trying to figure out how to approach without creating more confusion than there already was. They know something has to change. They know the old way cannot continue. The quietness, the avoidance, the waiting for the perfect moment, the pretending they were fine with distance when they weren't. That structure is cracking. And this connects so strongly back to the Three of Pentacles, because now they're seeing that if something was built on unfinished conversations, eventually those weak places start to show. You can't build something real while pretending the foundation doesn't need repair. So now this person is not just thinking about movement. They're thinking about impact. What happens if they speak? What happens if they don't? And once that question becomes too clear to ignore, the next card shows exactly why this cannot be approached casually anymore. And the next card coming through is the Queen of Wands. And this is very interesting, because this does not feel like someone coming in casually. This feels like someone finally recognizing the power of your presence. Tell me about this Queen of Wands. Yeah, see, this is your energy again, but in a different way than the Nine of Cups. The Nine of Cups was emotional self-sufficiency, but the Queen of Wands is confidence, magnetism, warmth, someone who can be loving, but is not going to shrink themselves to make another person comfortable. And I feel this person is looking at you now and realizing you are not the same person they may have hesitated with before. You may be softer in some ways, but you are also stronger. You may still have feelings somewhere inside, but you are not standing there with your heart in your hands, waiting for them to finally understand what they had. And that is what creates this pressure in them. Not a bad pressure, but a very honest one. Because with the Tower reversed before this, they were thinking about impact. What happens if they speak? What happens if they don't? And now the Queen of Wands is showing them the answer. If they don't speak, you may simply continue becoming more alive, more magnetic, more focused on yourself, and less available to the version of them that kept delaying. That is the realization. They are looking back at this love story and seeing the whole pattern now. The Three of Pentacles showed the foundation. The Four of Cups showed the moment they didn't fully receive what was there. The Queen of Swords showed your clarity. The Eight of Wands showed the urge to communicate. The Ace of Swords reversed showed the truth getting stuck. The Nine of Cups showed you choosing yourself. The Knight of Coins showed slow courage. The Two of Pentacles showed the back and forth. The Tower reversed showed the quiet shakeup. And now the Queen of Wands says, if you want to come forward with confidence. Come forward with respect. Come forward because you mean it. But what's interesting here is, this person is not only attracted to you, they are also aware that your energy requires maturity. They cannot come in with crumbs. They cannot come in testing the temperature and then disappear again. They have to bring something that matches the person they now see you becoming. And I feel they are preparing to make that move. They are looking back at how this love story unfolded, and they are realizing it still has another chapter. Take care. Bye for now.